All right. How is everybody doing on this Friday night? And yes, it is Friday. Happy weekend, everybody. Gonna just chat for about a minute or so, and then we'll get started and break down the Suns Timberwolves game. As you guys can see on the screen, if you guys are watching alongside on YouTube, here with a guest, second time on the channel. Yes, second time here with Timberwolves Talk. You can find him at Let's Talk Wolves on Twitter. He's also got a website, which I'm pretty sure I did link down below in the description. So how you doing, man? You want to introduce yourself? Tell people what you do out there. How's it going, man?
I'm doing good. Finally got the win. Last time
Right?
it was a blowout where I think I got in the chat room really early. I was like, I don't need to see the end of this. But yeah, I'm doing great. Still running the Let's Talk Minnesota Sports blog where I just basically cover the Minnesota professional teams with more so of an emphasis on the Minnesota Twins and the Timberwolves.
There you go, man. We need that local coverage. You know what I mean? That's another reason why you're on this show, because us local creators and writers and all that stuff, we're taking over, man. We're changing the game. So do appreciate you being here, man. I know that I already saw what you're drinking tonight, but do you want to show the people what you're drinking?
Northeast Grain Belt, Minnesota Brewery. It's one of the more bigger breweries in Minnesota, so it's an easy sipper.
It looks delicious, man. I'm, like I told you, I'm kind of this is leftover New Year's beer, just Miller Lite. I'm party fouling over here, but I don't care. It's going to be a good night. It's going to be a good show. In the chat, let us know what you guys are drinking tonight. And we're going to break down this game. We're going to talk about our MVPs of the game. We're going to go over the stats. We're going to basically just be asking each other questions. If you guys are joining, make sure to ask us questions as well. We're also going to talk about a little bit of a quote trade rumor, if you will. I'm going to put that in quotes from somebody who I think we both trust. So a pretty reliable source, in my personal opinion. We will get to that. So once again, you guys go ahead and submit your questions, leave your comments and everything. And I'm going to go ahead and take a sip of this beer and we'll dive right into it.
Love it.
Got my beautiful Suns mug here. All righty, you guys. So the Phoenix Suns, this game did not want to end. That's my thoughts. That's my thoughts, and that's the entire show. You guys have a good night. This game did not want to end. This game was drunk. You tweeted something at me. You said, well, the Wolves like to blow leads a lot, so this game may not be over. And I'm not, in a way, they sort of did blow the lead, but it was more of like the Suns just kept scratching and clawing their way back into this game. And I cannot repeat it enough. This game did not want to end. And props to the Phoenix Suns, man, obviously being very shorthanded. Like even with DeAndre Ayton playing in this game, so many of our best players out, injuries up and down the lineup. And that is an understatement. You know, you're playing a whole bunch of guys who usually are coming off the bench, like second and third stringers, playing huge minutes and everything. So these guys are not necessarily familiar with playing in those situations and playing this much minutes, especially on the road, which the Suns have been on the road a lot. They are in their toughest schedule of the season. So just opening thoughts, man. What did you think of this game? Any takeaways? What are you thinking, man?
There was a lot to just kind of take in because from the very start of the game, the Wolves controlled everything. And then usually the third quarter is when things go wrong for the Wolves. It wasn't, the Suns kind of got some sort of momentum, but then the Wolves kind of just stopped it. And then I believe they won the third quarter on the scoring.
Yes, 28-26.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. But it did seem like the Suns started to get momentum. Then it went into the fourth quarter. And then that's kind of where the Suns started to come back. I didn't really think that the Wolves would lose the game. But I did get a little nervous where I was just like, we've seen it before. This team has blown 20-point leads before. This is not uncommon territory for us. The game just did not want to end, though. Like, foul call after foul call, out of bounds, timeouts, you name it. It was a long last 5 minutes of the game.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that, man. A lot of runs in this game, if you will. And that was what was interesting. I mean, I've had to learn to accept, as somebody who's a fan of NBA history, that great offense always trounces great defense. And the Suns, to their credit, even though they were shorthanded, especially in a few games we've seen recently. Their defense has improved. Sometimes they'll play full court defense. They'll be up in your face. The defense is slightly improving at times, but they did not let they it was like they allowed the Timberwolves to get up a big lead and they would kind of claw and fight their way back in, but just a game full of runs, man.
Yeah.
So many sequences in this game that I kind of want to reference later on in the show about how crazy of a game in terms of the Phoenix Suns that it was. But a lot of things to really look forward to if you're a Phoenix Suns fan. I mean, I definitely have my MVPs of the game, and I know that you do as well.
Yep.
We saw tonight that tonight was the return of DeAndre Ayton, who's been in and out of the roster with an ankle injury, and we're definitely going to be talking about him. He definitely struggled tonight. That is an understatement. And I don't want to sound biased. I sort of defended him on Twitter with obviously mixed reaction from Suns fans, but he definitely is not 100%, nor is our entire roster right now. So those are just kind of my opening thoughts. This game didn't want to end. Game was full of runs. Just real quick, you mentioned something earlier. You said that. Did you say that the Timberwolves are kind of a bad third quarter team? Did you say that?
Yeah. It feels like every game they have a lead at half, and then the third quarter comes around and they just let go of the rope. They did it with the Detroit Pistons in that first matchup. They lost. I mean, they've lost both games to the Detroit Pistons, so they do not know how to come out of halftime with like energy or just focus, and that's what's plagued them like every time.
I remember last year, even though we did win 64 games, that was one area the Phoenix Suns did struggle in. The reason I asked you that is because I heard on the broadcast that you guys are number 4 in the league in the first quarter or something like that. The Suns, even prior to their injuries, had been a pretty bad first quarter team for the most part. Obviously, with the injuries, that's, they've dipped, in the first quarter and all that, but it's been bad in the first quarter. I don't really have the numbers in front of me, but it's pretty bad. Real quick, points in the paint, like I tweeted you, absolutely killed us tonight. We're going to dive into the numbers here in a second. I'm just kind of just referencing some things that I saw. Like, for example, start of the second quarter, Austin Rivers hit a 3. Couple minutes later, Ish Wainwright hit a couple back-to-back 3s. Naz Reid had that beautiful breakaway dunk where he looked like LeBron James, just threw it down. Tarian Prince was really good for you guys tonight. But again, man, the Suns just hit a few slumps in this game. Like, remember when it was 60-43? Just slow down on offense. I thought your Timberwolves, for the most part, played some pretty good defense tonight. The Suns had good opportunities and looks, but the ball just wasn't going in until maybe late in the game. So those are just some references. And again, there's some sequences that I want to dive into later because I literally wrote them down. I typed them down. I was like, I have to talk about that in tonight's show. So we're just going to dive into the stats real quick. We can go to the box score eventually. And if any ads start playing, please let me know. I had a live show a while ago where I had all these ads playing in the background. It was so embarrassing. And by ads, I mean the ESPN homepage or whatever was playing. So you heard Stephen A. Smith and all of them talking. So we're just going to go ahead. Hopefully you can see what I'm looking at here.
I can see it.
Okay? Cool. I can zoom in if you need me to.
No, I can see everything pretty good here.
Perfect. All right. So your Timberwolves, you know what? We're just going to start with points in the paint. I'm sorry. I just have to talk about this. 64 points in the paint for your Timberwolves, 46 for the Phoenix Suns. Absolutely killed us tonight. You even tweeted me back saying you guys were feasting in there. Phoenix Suns, though, shot pretty well from 3, which we really needed. We're going to talk about that later. Damian Lee was on absolute fire. The Suns shot nearly 61% from 3. But points in the paint, man. I mean, was there anything statistically that stood out to you? You can even go to the box score if you have it pulled up. But really, points in the paint is what I kind of wanted to focus on.
Yeah, the points in the paint. And it was weird because, if you're thinking the Wolves are doing really well with points in the paint, you're maybe assuming that Rudy Gobert is having a good game down low.
Yeah.
And he didn't get any touches. It was pretty much all just Anthony Edwards driving to the hoop. They pretty much had anything go, open lanes. I was kind of surprised because, I mean, I don't watch every Suns game, but I would assume that DeAndre Ayton he's a fairly good defender. I don't think he's a defensive player of the
He
year,
was
all NBA
last year.
candidate.
He
Yeah.
was
So
last
this year,
year.
is he fallen off a little bit?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Because I was gonna say, like, he was never like an all NBA guy, but he was never like a guy you take lightly on defense.
Right. Oh yeah. Yeah.
So
No,
that kind of
I agree with
surprised
that.
me.
Yeah. No, and you know what? I've been preaching that on my live streams, man, and even just in videos. Our paint defense sucks. And again, that's why I brought up that Nas Reed dunk, because that was like a practice dunk. That was like a layup line dunk.
He has some hops.
Yeah, he does. And I feel like he's kind of an underrated player in this league, just my personal opinion there.
Yeah, they might move him, but
hey, if you want a Jay Crowder for him, I'll take it, because I'll take anybody for Jay Crowder at this point, which, we're going to talk about that later. But I'm telling you, man, it doesn't matter who's in the paint. It doesn't matter who the Suns have on the floor. You're going to be able to score. Like, our rim defense is absolutely sad. And there were so many sequences in tonight's game where guys were just driving in the lane, especially Anthony Edwards in the first quarter and really all game, even late in the game when he had that wide open dunk to the lane to pretty much cap off the game.
There's not really any Suns player to like, because he's a very physical guard. So there's not really a Suns player that I would say could body him. Maybe Josh Okogie, but I mean, that's maybe we all have a soft spot for Josh Okogie, but yeah, there was nothing really the Suns could do to stop Anthony Edwards from going in the paint.
Yeah, we might have to have a whole Josh Okogie conversation, because there was a few things I saw from him tonight. He was freaking awesome.
I miss him.
That's why I'm always tweeting you and spamming you with all those Josh Okogie tweets and highlights.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Of course, man. I figured you'd like it. Both teams shot very well from the field tonight. 52% for your Timberwolves, 47% from the Suns. I already referenced the 3-point shooting for the Phoenix Suns. And let me tell you, man. Oh, go ahead.
Why did the Suns go away from their three? I felt like they just kind of like didn't go to it until the fourth quarter.
It's funny you mentioned that, because the Phoenix Suns do that a lot. And Monty Williams wants them taking a whole bunch of threes.
Yeah.
But the problem is, we're terrible. We're a terrible 3-point shooting team this year. Pretty much that was all Damian Lee. Damian Lee pretty much is our 3-point shooting until like Booker comes back and all of them.
Mikal Bridges he's a good shooter, but
yeah, he's had his ups and downs from three. But when Mikal Bridges is on from three, we are a tough team to beat, let me tell you, especially when we're fully healthy. But Damian Lee pretty much was our 3-point shooting tonight. But I do agree with you. They definitely didn't really start going to the three until late in the game. And sometimes it's the opposite. They'll be really on fire from three in the first half, and then they'll cool down in the second half. But again, 61% pretty much from three is amazing. We actually got to the free throw line tonight. That's another area that we've really struggled with. Your Timberwolves shot 85% from three. Surprisingly, we out-rebounded you tonight. I can't even believe it. 43-37. Those are just some stats that stand out to me. Do you want to go to the box score? Is there any other team stats that stand out to you before we jump to the box score?
No, just like the Wolves rebounding. Like, you would think that with Gobert, they just don't really put in much effort to go after the ball. It's almost like they think, okay, Rudy's down low, he's got it. And Rudy has had his games where he has 15, 20 rebounds, but for the most part, I don't think his rebounding has been as good as like you'd expect. Like, if you watch them, obviously with Utah, you're expecting Rudy Gobert 14, 15 boards a night. It hasn't been the case really this year.
I'm not even trying to troll the Phoenix Suns here, but my guy Sawbucks is spitting facts right here. The Phoenix Suns love to go away from what's working. It's a Suns thing. Sadly, even like when we're fully healthy, that's kind of been the story of the season in a way. That's happened a lot. And I don't want to fully blame Monty Williams for that, but it's just a Suns thing, man.
Yeah, the third quarter, they just completely just stopped going to the three. And then the fourth, they're like, okay, let's go back to it. Because in the first half, it worked really well.
Yeah. I think I've only seen a couple of games this season where like the three was just going in, didn't matter every single quarter. That feels like a lifetime ago with all these injury plagued players and blowout losses and yikes. So we're going to jump to the box score real quick. Let me just switch that. Appreciate everybody that's in here. We're already 15 minutes in, man. This conversation's flying by. We're going to have a good night tonight. So once again, in the chat, I'm going to try to get to all your questions. And by the way, if you see a good comment or question, man, please let me know, because I'm like multitasking over here real quick. Um, so let's start with the Phoenix Suns. I have to do that, obviously.
Yeah, it's your show.
Suns here. Exactly. Mikal Bridges, let me tell you, man, he had a slump for maybe about a week or so where he just could not hit anything. And one thing I love about Mikal Bridges, man, was he even talked to the media about it. I don't really remember what he said, but he pretty much addressed that he is struggling. He is in a slump. 40 minutes tonight, 9 for 14 from the field, hit 3 threes for what, that's something. 24 points, 6 assists, which is really good, 3 steals. We all know what he does on defense, although at times he has struggled on defense, especially in the slump. Go ahead.
I was going to point out just like last game, I wanted to look it up because I'm pretty sure he had a really good game against us last time.
Yeah.
And he had 31 points, 12 of 20 from the field, 9 rebounds, 5 assists. It was just another Mikal Bridges night against us.
See, that's what I'm talking about, man. Like when he has games like that, when we're fully healthy, we are a tough team to beat because you would think that the defense is going to want to guard up against Chris Paul and Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton. Mikal Bridges is right there in the corner, or he's driving in the lane, scoring that way. He's a really good mid-range shooter for the most part, not as of late. I even wanted to make a video about his recent struggles, but holidays and I ran out of time and all that. But 40 minutes, man, 24 points, 9 for 14 from the field. And I want to bring that up too, is it wasn't that Mikal Bridges wasn't taking shots during the slump. He just wasn't efficient and he just looked off. He did reveal he was kind of dealing with an injury. And for all I know, he probably is still dealing with an injury. But he's literally the NBA's Iron Man. I think he has I think he's played in like 350 games or more. Like it's like a streak. You know what I mean? So he was amazing tonight. Go ahead.
Didn't he hyperextend his knee and then he still?
Yeah, I think it was a knee injury. All these injuries are piling up. I don't even remember.
Yeah, I couldn't remember. I thought he was injured and it looked serious, but then he was like back in the lineup like the next night.
Exactly. Yeah, the dude never takes a night off, which is amazing. He's literally the NBA's Iron Man. I don't know if I want to talk about DeAndre Ayton. Again, like I said, I sort of defended him on Twitter. He did just come back from an ankle injury. I think he missed like 2 or 3 games.
I don't feel seen. Oh my God,
and kind of like I focused on.
There's
on the road is
he was 5 ad going on right now.
Oh crap!
I just want to point that out.
Thank you.
For avoiding mayhem.
Like me. Stupid ads. All right, are we good?
Yeah, you're good now.
Okay, sorry guys. Damn it, I hate when that happens. I have the thing muted too, and I'm like, I guess it just doesn't work. Anyways, thank you all. Thank you guys for letting me know there was an ad. Thank you as well. Okay, DeAndre.
Flattest shot.
Yeah. 5 for 18. 11 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists.
The Suns kind of went on a streak when Biyombo went on too on the floor instead of Ayton. And that was like kind of something key that I was like, get Ayton back in the game.
We actually have a really good record when I know Bismack Biyombo didn't start, but when he does start, we actually have a really good record with Bismack in the lineup. I just think Ayton isn't trusting his ankle right now, and I understand that. I mean, he's a big dude, obviously, big trees fall hard and all that, but clearly he's not 100%. And I'm pretty sure I've talked to you about this before. When DeAndre Ayton is struggling, or when his head isn't fully in the game, it's a long night for DeAndre Ayton. I'm sure Suns Twitter is killing him right now. I had to talk about him.
Yeah, so I feel like that's been a kind of a common occurrence though this season, especially after obviously the Indiana Pacers thing that happened this offseason. I kind of feel like there's been a lot of ups and downs this season. I mean, he's had kind of that up and down throughout his career, but I feel like this season it's been a little bit more emphasized, I guess you could say.
Yeah. And Matthew makes a good point here. Ayton hasn't protected the rim well or done anything good defensively this year. I'm not saying he hasn't had great defensive sequences or moments. There has been times where he has showed up and you have seen the effort, but like he's not leading the league in blocks. I know he's not top 5 in rebounding last time I checked anyways. Something just isn't there defense. And I'm telling you, man, and I know this was a couple of years ago or whatever, but he was arguably the best player when we went to the finals and even a little bit in the NBA finals. He literally, I mean, it was like Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, and Chris Paul. You know, like, I don't know if we go to the finals that year That's how great DeAndre Ayton was. And he had a good season last year as well. And he won like player of the week earlier this season. So we've seen some good DeAndre Ayton games, but he's recovering from the injury. And I didn't know what to expect tonight from DeAndre Ayton because unfortunately he's just one of those players. You don't know what to expect every single night. And that's the biggest criticism, debate, and flaw that DeAndre Ayton has. So I had to go on that rant. So I don't know if you have any thoughts or any.
No, yeah, that was just kind of mine. Because,
yeah,
I mean, from watching afar, that's what I've seen, that it has not looked the same this year for DeAndre Ayton. And I don't know what's kind of going on there, but it has been a little odd. And it's obviously there's been a lot of stuff going on since the offseason with Ayton, but who knows?
So we'll talk about it later. I'm pretty sure you know who my MVP was for tonight. But Damian Lee, it's pretty simple, man. 31 points in 31 minutes. He hit 6 threes. And he was super aggressive as well. I mean, he did get a few points, it felt like it was all threes though. And it felt like a lot of those threes came in the second half, if my memory serves me correctly. Damian Lee was absolutely awesome. And I do want to give an honorable mention to Saban Lee, who just recently signed his second 10-day contract. He signed one earlier in the season, like around the preseason and all that. But we desperately needed a body in here. Desperately needed some kind of a playmaker, if you will. 12 points tonight, 2 rebounds, 2 assists. Super aggressive. He's very fast. And with that being said, go ahead.
He got to the line.
Yeah. Yep. What did he go? Yeah, 6 for 8. I just noticed that. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, I was saying, I feel like every time like late in the game, I feel like every time he was at the free throw line. Yeah, I was gonna give him a shout out too because he played really well.
Thank you for bringing that up because to be honest, I overlooked that. I was so focused on all these other things, I completely overlooked that. So this is where you can kind of go on your rants and everything. You don't have to cover like every player.
Yeah.
But let's look at the Timberwolves box score. Anybody that stood out to you? Who do you want to talk about? Do you want to go on a rant? I'm going to open up my second beer already, and I'll just let you go ahead and talk away, man.
Yeah, no, so I want to obviously Jaden McDaniels, I don't think he gets enough love. He should be an all-NBA candidate for, I don't know how many Suns fans watch Jaden McDaniels. I know you guys have been linked to his brother recently.
Yeah.
But yeah, Jaden McDaniels, he's their best defender. Not best defender, best point of attack defender.
Right.
He's been passing the ball really well recently. He has 6 assists tonight, but over the last week or two, he's been really finding his teammates, especially Rudy Gobert, and that's been a really big key.
6 assists tonight. Plus 13, the plus minus, and I hate the plus minus, but
I hate plus minus too. I don't look at it really.
Right. Stood out though.
Yeah. Kyle Anderson and Taurean Prince, when they play, the Wolves usually play well. If they don't play, they usually lose. That's been a kind of a key factor. And obviously it kind of gets a little bit, it's more emphasized with Cat out of the lineup. That doesn't help us either. But yeah, I don't know. D'Angelo Russell, I thought he was my MVP. I know he didn't have the most points, but I thought Anthony Edwards got the most points at the end of the game when I guess you could say that's when it matters. But
that was like the first quarter and the end of the game for Anthony Edwards.
But it was kind of like D'Angelo Russell was keeping things steady throughout the whole game. He kind of was a little bit off in that fourth towards the end, but for the most part, I thought he really kind of picked things up for them. And he's been obviously in the front of all these trade rumors as well.
Right. I like Ingram Prod's comment here about Jalen McDaniels. Does all the dirty work, helps win games and all that.
He does. Obviously he fouls a lot, but he doesn't get the best whistle. I think he deserves a better whistle for how good he is defensively. I know obviously not everyone's been able to watch the Wolves games. I don't think anyone would really want to with the way the season has gone. But Jaden McDaniels, he should get some more love nationally because what he does for the Wolves can't go unnoticed.
I do kind of want to pick your brain later about the Timberwolves season so far because I have a quick thought on that, but we'll talk about that later. Any other takeaways from the Timberwolves box score? Anybody stand out, or should we just move on to our MVPs and
Yeah, I
worst
don't
of
really
the
have
game.
much other than like the bench has been kind of hit or miss. Nas Reed has obviously been a key with Prince. Austin Rivers has been really deadly from the corner, and Jalen Noel, I don't really have much to say. I know I talked about his bucket as last game, but
Yeah, I remember that.
he's been brutal to watch.
How old is Jalen McDaniels? Just curious.
He was a rookie in the Anthony Edwards draft class, so
So
he's got to be like
2020,
22.
22? Okay.
I think he's a year older than Ant, if I'm not mistaken.
Got it. Just curious. All right. Well, let's go ahead. And I'm kind of just doing this on the fly because I don't really do as many live streams as I want to do, but I kind of actually took this from you. The MVP of the game, worst of the game, underrated game, if you will.
Yeah.
And I haven't really had an opportunity to really do this because, Suns injuries, losses, and all that. So I'm just going to go ahead. Y'all already know who it is. I'm going to have like 2 MVPs of this game. For me, anyways, it's got to be Damian Lee, man. I mean, 31 points in 31 minutes.
He was insane.
He was cooking. I don't know if it counted. I would have to go back and look. He hit that 3 at the very end of the game as well.
Yeah,
without him, we probably get blown out of this game. But you know what, man? I'm telling you, like as much of a roller coaster, of a season it's been, Damian Lee has really shown a lot of confidence and leadership. And even when we're getting blown out, coming into the fourth quarter and just hitting shots. I mean, he's won an NBA championship for a reason. He's been absolutely fantastic for us. And I'm kind of my own biggest critic here, but I don't talk about him enough on this channel.
I do love him a lot. He's a guy that I watch from afar, kind of. He's always been a guy I was like, what it would be like to have him on the Wolves roster.
Oh, dude, I'm sure you guys would love him because, I mean, he's been here, 40-something games, and I love him, man. He's great.
He's made an impact, like, in any game I've watched him play.
I remember, and I even uploaded, like, a picture of it or a short clip to Twitter during the preseason. Like, it was, like, his first preseason game. He was, like, pulling somebody aside and, like, telling them where to be. I was like, dude, like, we haven't seen this since, like, Chris Paul got here. And it just goes to show that experience, the championship pedigree, winning a title, which he did just receive his first ring recently when we played the Warriors and everything. But I thought he was really good. And then, honorable mention, as I mentioned, I'm kind of just looking at the box score here. I guess I got to give to Saban Lee, man. I mean, you mentioned the free throw, 6 straight field. He's super fast, 12 points, 2 assists, 2 boards. He's just taking the most of his opportunity. I talked about him recently in my video. He's excited to be back with the Phoenix Suns. He sort of is familiar with how we run our offense and, Phoenix and James Jones and Monty Williams. So those are my MVPs of the game. Let me know if I forgot anybody, Suns fans. Suns fans, let us know in the chat. Or if you're watching afterwards, let us know who your MVP of the game was. I'm going to try to make this a regular thing. So let's say you, man, who are your MVP or MVPs of the game?
Yeah, so like I said, I had D'Angelo Russell. I could have gone for the easy Anthony Edwards. He had the most points, but I thought the Wolves don't jump out to that lead without D'Angelo Russell. He was kind of the reason they were up big at halftime. They were up big in the third at one point. And then, of course, the Suns started coming back later in the game. But D'Angelo Russell was my MVP. I had Rudy Gobert as my underrated for a bit, but then he kind of, because his defense inside was pretty good. I don't know how much that affected Ayton as well. He did have some moments, obviously, with a late tee.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Ayton was just shot happy, so I don't know how much of that.
Right.
But I thought Gobert had a couple big rebounds as well that kind of had a big impact on the game. Other than that, I did the underrated as Jaden McDaniels, I'm pretty sure, just because I noticed that when Austin Rivers didn't play terrible, but there was a moment in time where the Suns started crawling back, and then Austin Rivers was on the floor. They sub him out. They put in Jaden McDaniels, and that kind of slowed things down a little bit for that momentum. But yeah, I love Jaden McDaniels.
So I know our conversation's kind of all over the place, but there's, like I mentioned, there's a few sequences I wanted to talk about to help describe this game.
Yeah.
And this all took place in the third quarter. I don't really remember the minutes here. Dario Saric got a rebound, and I think it might have been McDaniels who might have like stolen it, or Dario just lost it. This was all like back to back to back to back, by the way. And there was like a few gaps here and there, but it was pretty much possession after possession. Dario rebound, loses it. Suns get the ball back somehow. I don't know how they got the ball back. Torrey Craig, fast break, gets blocked. Is it Kyle Anderson layup?
Yeah.
Couple possessions later, Anthony Edwards 3. And then you remember that nice D'Angelo Russell, Anthony Edwards alley-oop dunk. That's when I honestly thought the game was over. I just had to bring that up. And then there was one possession before all of that where Mikal Bridges' shoe pretty much flew off. He was trying to put it back on.
I was wondering what happened there.
And I want to say there was like a possession after that. He was like still trying to get his shoe, or the Timberwolves, like we turned it over and the Wolves just ran a fast break. And I was just like, this whole game was drunk. You know what I mean? And in the fact, I don't even know if it's more of your Timberwolves or if it was the Suns picking up the pace and the effort and the defense in the fourth quarter. The fact that this game was still a ball game, and the fact that the Suns were kind of in it, like it was a 10-point game, and then that would be a 15-point lead all within like 2 possessions. I had to go on that rant because I literally wrote those things down. I was like, I have to talk about that.
Yeah, there's a lot of like 12-0 runs, and then it was the other side that went on the run, and then that was pretty much the entire game. It was literally like the Suns would get really close, the Wolves would kind of push it back to
Very good.
Push it back to like 18, 20, and then the Suns would get it back up to like 11, 10, whatever. And that was pretty much the story of the game.
I should have brought this little tab up right here. That was the worst of the game for me. I don't know. I didn't really care about the officiating tonight. That was just the worst moments, if you will. Just had to bring that up real quick. Any final takeaways before we dive into our other stuff that we're going to talk about tonight? Any final thoughts, anything you got going? Because we can talk about little trade rumors and all that, and keep going with our show here.
No, I don't really have much. I mean, it was kind of hard to really take much away from it because, I mean, like you said, the Suns they have a lot of injuries. The Wolves have obviously missed Karl Anthony Towns and Jordan McLaughlin. So, I mean, when healthy, we've seen the two teams play each other, and the Suns obviously have the upper hand. But it would be nice to see where things stand, obviously, again, with now Rudy Gobert kind of having more experience with the Wolves now and where that would look with Cat, obviously, in the lineup.
Because, like, I know that both of our teams have dealt with injuries, obviously, but I feel like your Wolves are in a completely different place than they were, obviously, when we first played. I know you guys lost like 6 in a row, but then you guys won like 4 was it 5 in a row now?
It was 4. They lost to the Pistons.
Oh, okay. So, and prior to all these injuries, the Suns were kind of like that. We win a few games and lose a few games, and I
can't remember where I heard it, but I thought I've heard that the Wolves have the second most minutes, or the second worst injury going on this season, where like the total. I'm trying to think of like what it was. It was like the total minutes or games missed. Or
I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
I mean, they were second from last I heard.
I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I know the Pistons have been beat up this year. The Spurs, obviously the Suns. It feels like the whole league's been injured. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, for sure.
But I think I know what you're talking about there. I wish I would have found.
Yeah, I wish I could think of like the exact thing. It's like at the tip of my tongue. I can't think of it at the moment.
Just real quick, man. Any questions for me? I mean, obviously we can keep it Suns related or NBA related because I have one question for you. I mean, I can start with that if you'd like, but any
let's start in
for me. You want me to ask you?
Yeah, let's start with that.
So just real quick, man, because I love Phoenix Suns fans to death. They're awesome, but they're also very toxic and they're very panic mode. And sometimes I'll troll a little bit on Twitter. I'll kind of feed the beast, if you will. I'll get a little toxic on Twitter as well. But even when we're fully healthy, after every single loss, Suns Twitter goes into a panic. So I guess what I'm asking you, sort of 2 questions. I'll ask you one first. Is Timberwolves Twitter like that? Or I don't know if you're on Facebook. Are you in any Timberwolves Facebook groups? Are they like that? You know what I mean? Do you get my question? No,
Timberwolves Twitter is bad. There was
I love you Suns fans. I'm sorry.
It was literally like I can't remember who posted it. It was like the Wolves are so back when they win like a game or two, and then it's like the season's over, and it's like it's just a domino effect. It's like once they lose one game, it's like the Timberwolves Twitter is literally just a roller coaster ride of just so much is going on. I've had to take like a day or two, I guess, like not necessarily off of Twitter, but
Tweeting.
just kind
Yeah,
of like just tweeting and talking about it, because it is, especially when they're on that like 6-game losing streak, and then they had the players only meeting after they lost to the Pistons.
I heard
It
about
was like
that. Yeah.
it was like, where's this season headed? I thought we were
That
gonna
I
look
can
maybe a little better.
understand. If Timberwolves fans were panicking after that, I could understand that. But I just had to kind of get your perspective and feedback.
It's very bad.
Just was curious because that's how Phoenix Suns fans are. Suns fans, you know I love you. Come on. I'm spitting the truth here.
Yeah, and it's difficult because it's like, yeah, both teams are struggling right now, but you win 3 games in a row, you're back up out of the play-in. Or if you lose 4, you're probably sitting around 9, 10, 11.
I was going to mention that, man. I mean, we can talk about it later, but the NBA, especially the Western Conference, even though the Suns are
fun.
Yeah. It's like you mentioned, if you win a few games and let's say some team drops, like even just a couple of games. I mean, somehow the last time I checked, the Suns were like the 7th seed, when in reality we should be like the 12th seed because of all these losses and injuries. So
what was the record in January? Was it like 5 and?
Oh yeah, I think it was December. I think we were like 5 and
December?
15. Yeah. I
guess it is still January. Never mind.
Yeah. No, it feels like we're 5 and 15, even though we're 13 days into January. And
I meant December. My bad.
I said this recently. I was like, before we beat the Warriors, which that was a great win, by the way. I was like, I don't even remember the last time we won. You know what I mean? That
was an interesting win too.
That was a great win. Yeah, I couldn't believe it. Like, I wish I would have gone live that night, but I was sick. I had like a 24-hour bug, but that was an amazing win, man.
Yeah, that was a really one.
Second question for you, and I'm kind of just spitballing here. I like to consider myself an optimistic basketball fan. Like, even when a team is having a terrible season, I'm like, well, they got player X, Y, and Z, and they got a bright future.
Yeah, that's what I do.
So, am I crazy? And I don't even know if this is a question. Am I crazy to say that I think basketball fans and the media are kind of overreacting about the Timberwolves season so far? I mean, it's year 1 of the Rudy Gobert experiment, and we're not even at All-Star break, and you guys are kind of borderline playing. Am I crazy? I don't even know if that's a question. You get what I'm saying?
No, I get what you're saying, because I've had to check myself a few times where I'm like, we have to trade Rudy Gobert this offseason. And I think it's been a really long season, and it's just like you kind of like fact check yourself or like come back to reality 24 hours later. It's like, why would you even do that? Because if you do, if that was even the possibility, it's like you're selling so low. I think it's just because like the trade packages, you see Patrick Beverley, who Timberwolves fans love, and he's having a down year in LA, but he's
beloved there.
Yeah, he is very much. And you see like the 3-point shooting, the Wolves are really bad this year. And it's like, we could have desperately used Malik Beasley many times. And it's like, because Jalen Noel's now in that role and he's struggling. And it's like Malik Beasley, Patrick Beverley, Jared Vanderbilt. And you see the picks and you see Walker Kessler doing things.
That's who I was going to mention, man. He's a stud.
Yeah. And so
on defense.
Yeah, it's been an up and down. And then now the talk is like, well, could they trade Karl Anthony Towns this offseason? It's like, I think you have to. There's a lot going on in Timberwolves world. I don't know. I can talk about it for hours.
No, let it out, man. I mean, go for it.
Yeah, because I'm a huge Cat person. The Wolves are terrible when Cat misses games. I think they have like a 40-some win percentage when he plays and like a 20 when they don't. And it doesn't sound good. It was like 40%. But you think about those Timberwolves teams, they've never been good. So like the supporting cast, like Karl Anthony Towns kicking out to Travion Graham for a 3. You have to like put it into perspective. It's like he's doing Yeah, you have to put it into perspective. It's like 40-some% when he does play. It's like he's carrying a lot of bad players, but I don't know. I'm all for just kind of, I think the Timberwolves front office has the perfect excuse to not do anything this offseason and then give the fans the excuse of, okay, well, we didn't really see it all through because Cat missed the majority of the season. Yep. And so they kind of get off kind of scot-free in a sense. And we'll see. I mean, the hard part is like you have to build around Ant. You have to move forward because Anthony Edwards playmaking, I don't know if you've seen, but he's racking up close to triple double numbers. And so his playmaking has been really good. The turnovers are still bad, but he's getting the Wolves need to move forward with kind of point and but still have another ball handler to kind of like calm things down because he still does make those mistakes.
Suns fans are going to think I'm crazy, but I used to not be a believer in Point Booker, and he's proven to me over the years that he is a good playmaker.
Yeah.
So I understand that. I just had to ask you because, like I said, I'm an optimistic basketball fan, and you obviously cover the team, watch every game and all that. But it's year one, man. Injuries happen. Look at the Phoenix Suns. Injuries happen. You don't know what this team can be when they're 100%, when everything's clicking. You know what I mean? Maybe things will improve for you guys later in the season. It's a long season. I'm talking to you, Suns fans. It's a long season, Suns fans and Timberwolves fans.
And
hopefully Cat comes back soon. Go ahead with what you're.
No, I was just gonna say. I just want to point out because like you look at like the Bulls and the Atlanta Hawks, and you kind of like look at like
we could talk about them for hours.
Yeah, and it's like if it goes south, like you can, I guess, trade Cat. You can, go in another direction. The Wolves at least have a backup in Anthony Edwards and Jaden McDaniels, where it's like they're not fully lost. Like with this trade, they still have another backup plan. So it looks a little dark and gloom at times, but for the most part, I think it'll be okay because they could go with a Ant and Gobert pairing for a while with Jaden McDaniels, move Cat for assets, or go. There's multiple avenues, so I don't think it's totally negative.
The way I look at it, and I guess just my final thoughts on this is, one, if you guys did trade Cat, which I don't think you guys are going to,
I don't think so either.
You would get way more than just assets. You know what I mean? You guys would get a package deal, which probably, who knows if it'd make you guys better, but you'd be receiving a lot.
And that's the other thing to think about.
Yeah. Secondly, even when you guys were struggling and let's say Gobert had a bad game and all that, the media was overreacting. Because I watch a lot of YouTube videos. I watch a lot of NBA content creators and all that and podcasts. I used to not be a podcast guy, but I kind of feel like the media was sort of overblowing it. The way I look at it is like, I kept repeating it's year one, but I'm like, I just don't think they would have made the Rudy Gobert trade if they didn't expect these things to happen. Because you can't control injuries. And it's like, still got a long season. Hopefully Cat comes back soon. Hopefully, Anthony Edwards keeps playmaking and plays at an all-star level, if you will. We'll have to see what happens. I just had to get your perspective and thoughts on that. So I appreciate that.
Just depends. It literally just depends on which game you watch.
I think
there's a lot of frustrations, but 24 hours later, you're back and you have a different perspective. It's just a long season. I think when you go into the off season, it'll be a little easier to kind of think a little bit more clear.
Yeah. And you kind of said something earlier. You said something like you don't think the Timberwolves would probably make a lot of moves this offseason because let's be real, they did it this past offseason. Mm-hmm. I could probably see that happening. I'm sure they'll make like a couple moves, but I can't see
it'll
them
be small. The big one is D'Angelo Russell. If they don't move him this trade deadline, which I'm sure we'll get into pretty soon here, but
we will.
Yeah, he's a unrestricted free agent this offseason.
Yep.
They could always do a sign and trade if they don't move him. But again, that's going to be the big kind of thing looming over their head within the next couple months now.
Before we dive into this D'Angelo Russell stuff, any questions for me? Just anything? I don't know. I mean, because it sounds like a lot of Timberwolves fans and Suns fans kind of have a lot of common ground with the way you've been talking about them. So any questions, man?
I think I asked you again last time. I know you probably don't know. Where is Jay Crowder even like chilling right now? Is he in Atlanta?
Apparently he is, yes.
You think that he would just kind of set up his pride aside and come back, especially with all the injuries. He would get so much run. He's only hurting his value at this point with contracts in the future, trade value.
Yeah.
Does he get booed if he plays for another team and comes back?
Probably. Yeah. I think he might get mixed, reactions.
That was my thing. I was like, I feel like you get booed, but I know he had like a big impact on the Suns. But
Monty Williams just today had a really mature response because I guess Jay Crowder was talking to Chris Haynes and said some things. I'm so like sick and I'm just over talking about the Jay Crowder stuff. but I feel like I have a responsibility to keep talking about the Jay Crowder stuff. Pretty much Monty Williams said like he loves Jay Crowder. It's nothing personal, but he did take a quote shot at the Phoenix Suns. It's a big mess. It is literally a huge, just like with our ownership right now, it's a huge mess right now. The way I look at it, I'm like, dude, if you really wanted to win a championship or at least contend for a championship, you'd be playing with the Phoenix Suns. I don't care
I
about
don't know
contract.
where he thinks.
Yeah. And you're
like,
right.
The Suns have a good chance.
I think his value is dropping. There's obviously some hold up with the ownership right now, which is another reason he can't be traded, which by the way, Suns fans, I made a video about that. Check it out on the channel.
Yeah, that's a whole nother.
But even if it wasn't the ownership holding it up, it's like would the Timberwolves really want to trade for Jay Crowder? Like would like let's say like the Hawks, like he's on an expiring deal for $10 million. You clearly see that he has a ego. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
I'm not saying he doesn't bring value. Yeah,
but he brings so much, and like
he
just
does.
Like in the Timberwolves standpoint, they need that Patrick Beverley voice where they need someone that steps up. I mean, Taurean Prince has done really well in that. Austin Rivers, but they don't have that Patrick Beverley like
the dog
in your like face, that kind of. And so, but it's like, is it worth the headache?
Yeah,
because he's a really good player. I think he has a lot of value to a team. Whether it's not even that he has puts up stats, it's just like he has an impact. But again, like this whole thing that's going on, it's tough to see, especially because if you're going to trade Jay Crowder, you're going to be probably trading him to a team that is trying to contend or do something in the playoffs. So it's like, which team that is winning is trying to give up one of their players for another player?
Exactly. And there's so many like scenarios. Like, I don't know if James Jones would trade him to a contender. He's been linked to so many teams. I don't know who to believe anymore. And like Matthew says here, teams want him for sure, but they won't give up much. And I feel like as the days go on, but at the same time, and I kind of referenced this in a few videos and streams, teams might get desperate, especially on the trade deadline. If I know James Jones, man, he's going to wait till the last minute to trade Jay Crowder. And including myself, I'm going to be in a fucking panic. And Suns Twitter is going to be on fire. But he's literally going to wait till the last moment, till the trade deadline like expires. And again, I know that Suns fans probably don't like Jay Crowder right now, but he does bring a lot to the team. I mean, he's got that dog in him, can bring a little bit of offense, veteran experience. I mean, remember, he made the finals, like back-to-back years or whatever. I think it was 2020 and then, the Suns a couple of years ago, but brings a lot to a team. But this whole situation's messy, man. I mean, your opinion, I feel like, is as good as mine.
Yeah, I was going to say. Situation. Because at this point, you probably are best just to wait till the trade deadline. But at that point, I would just trade him for whatever you can get.
Yeah.
At that point, like, it could be, I mean, like you said, he's a free agent.
Yeah.
Are you really losing much on the trade if you just trade him for nothing?
Right. It's come to the point, and like,
I don't want a cloud over your head now.
Yeah. It's a cloud over our head. And that's kind of why Monty, like, I don't have the full quote in front of me, but Monty Williams pretty much addressed that it has been a cloud. And at the end of the day, he does love Jay Crowder, but he's focusing on our team, what's going on now. And I feel like some teams might shy away because it's like he's staying at home. He doesn't want to play for us right now. It's just a big mess, man. I don't know. And I guess what I've tried to reference in some videos is like, I would rather, even on Twitter, I'm like, I would take anything for Jay Crowder right now, because at least you got a body in there, someone you can give a chance to, opportunities. I'm over it.
Yeah, at this point, you can't be too picky, that's the issue. It's like teams, like that guy said, like teams want them, but they don't want to give up a lot. And that's where the Suns are running into issues, because they want something because they're trying to win. And that's where it kind of hits a wall.
So let me know if you want me to focus on a certain part of this story. We'll kind of jump to our next topic, if you will. So there was an article posted by somebody who I trust, and I think you trust as well. Jake Fisher from Yahoo Sports. Used to be with Bleacher Report, I think, but now he's with Yahoo Sports. I guess I'll kind of focus right here because I think this is where the Suns were referenced, if I'm correct.
It's at the very end. He has like a really
very
weird
end.
comment where he says, "If you're not gonna use me, then
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Here
right
we
there.
go.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
an
Suns
interesting
fans.
quote.
Yeah. So pretty much with this article, and maybe you can sum this up better for me. Pretty much what this article is referencing is D'Angelo Russell is aware that he's involved in trade rumors every year. You mentioned he is on an expiring deal, like what last year, 17
Yeah,
million or something. I don't know.
yeah, it was
It
like a
was in here
$114 million
somewhere.
deal. So he's making like 30 this year.
Oh, I said 17, 30, Jesus. Okay. But pretty much the Suns were mentioned in this article, but Russell Westbrook. I said D'Angelo Russell said, and let's see if I can highlight this here. You either take advantage of me and my ability or effed up the opportunity with me, Jay Crowder. Russell told Yahoo Sports in December. It's as simple as that. Um, I'm an alpha as well. You know what
That
I
was
mean?
interesting.
And I feel like I'm better than a lot of shooting guards and I'm better than a lot of point guards. That's coming from D'Angelo Russell. So you guys are probably like,
Yeah.
Suns Geek, why does this matter? Well, first off, my guest here, Let's Talk Wolves, go follow him on Twitter. You know, Timberwolves fan and everything, covers the team. But the Phoenix Suns are mentioned here a little bit. League executives are monitoring the Los Angeles Clippers and the Phoenix Suns as teams in search of backcourt improvements before the deadline. So,
And that's also a good point that him and obviously Booker are like best friends. So you have to consider that maybe, but it is interesting that they were mentioned. I did not think that they were. Obviously the rumors have been the Miami Heat. I don't know how much really Toronto really. I think that's more Wolves fans wanting Fred VanVleet, which I'm one of them. And then of course the Clippers have been a team that have been brought up a lot. And so I didn't see the Suns coming up, but I thought it was interesting.
And just so you know, Suns fans, there is obviously a lot more to this article. I just kind of skimmed down to the bottom. And you did mention he is best friends with Devin Booker. It is mentioned in this article. And I remember, I think it was in 2019. Somehow,
it was when he signed with the Warriors and they all had that photo on the magazine.
Yeah. Thank you for refreshing my memory on that. Mm-hmm. There was somebody, I even made a video about this. That's how long ago it feels. Somebody made a billboard of a tweet that he did, and everybody thought that D'Angelo Russell was coming to the Phoenix Suns.
Because they all want to play they all want to play in the same team, meaning Cat and as well. And but I don't know how realistic that is. That's probably more of a at the end of their career type of thing.
Right. And I don't know, man. I guess I'll kind of put you on the spot here. Like, do you think that this is possible? Because
I was, just looking at it, it's like you'd almost have to say, obviously, Jay Crowder. After that, I don't know, because it's like, what are you really getting after that?
Yeah. And salaries, that's where I'm stumped, is the salaries.
Yeah, it have to be like, because he makes 30.
Yeah.
He's making 31, so you'd have to put in like salary. It would be like Shamit, Saric or whatever. You know,
but like, would the Timberwolves even consider that?
That's what I mean. Like, would they be better off just keeping him and doing a sign and trade? Because it's like he's been, I don't know. Like, I think that the best point guard is someone that moves the ball and allows Ant to kind of do his thing. But D'Lo has been really good in catching shoot situations, which has been very valuable for a team who was not shot well. So it's like, do you keep him or do you move him? Obviously, the rumors have been Kyle Lowry. That's been the most consistent one. But that's a tough one. I don't see really a link with the Suns. But again, he brought it up, so he probably knows more than I do. Yeah. But just like looking at it on paper, I just don't know where it makes sense to trade like the Suns players for the Wolves, like D'Angelo Russell.
Yeah. And that's what's really tricky about our general manager, James Jones. He keeps everything so like quiet, hush, hush.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying the Suns are going to trade for D'Angelo Russell at the trade deadline, but it's sometimes James Jones does that. He thinks of things and contracts and salaries that we're not even thinking of. But at the same time, James Jones's track record at the trade deadline isn't super promising. It's pretty much just Torrey Craig, if that makes sense. So
who I like.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think this was a good conversation to bring up, and it is interesting that he did mention the Phoenix Suns, but unfortunately, Phoenix Suns are in every single trade rumor you can ever think of, even if it's unrealistic, because the whole Jay Crowder thing, and you mentioned expiring contracts of Dario Saric, Landry Shamet, who, by the way, people give shit to Landry Shamet for his contract. He's actually on a pretty good deal because I think a couple of those years aren't guaranteed. Just had to throw that out there. And you know what? I can't believe I'm saying this. We miss you, Landry Shamet. We could have used your 3-point shooting tonight. So I don't know. Any final thoughts on this article?
Yeah. Not really. I hope I'm obviously like my favorite college is Ohio State. So I've always liked D'Angelo Russell, but I would like to see him off the team because I don't think he fits with the Wolves.
Yeah.
I like watching him play like when he's cooking, but he does have those moments where he turns the ball over. He's had some interesting quotes. He's unfollowed the team.
Yeah.
Whatever you want. You
that
can
was
take
referenced in here. Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, you can take that whatever you want. It's
right.
Today's
Social
day and age.
media.
That's what you do when you want to make a stand.
Right.
I don't know. I'm kind of just over it. It kind of just feels like something that just needs to be done and find help elsewhere, I guess.
And you never know, like maybe a change of scenery for D'Angelo. And it's hard to say that because, because he's been with the Warriors and all that. He wasn't he with the Nets? That feels like a lifetime.
Yeah, he was an all-star there, which is weird. It's at some point like he was, I think, the number 2, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Okafor was 3. At some point, if you're the number 2 pick and you've already played for 4 or 5 teams, whatever it is, it's probably more that you're not obviously the player that they're looking for. Because obviously, if he's playing really well, they're not giving up a number 2 pick, and that's playing well. But it's like his contract is bad for what he's giving you. And there's just a lot that goes into it, I guess.
And as a fan of NBA history, I can tell you he obviously has not lived up to a number 2 overall pick. Just saying, there's like some kind of curse. I don't believe in curses. There's some kind of a curse with the number 2 overall pick.
And if he did go to the Suns, you would have to deal with all the D'Lo stands.
Yeah.
That are always in my mentions. They don't even follow you on Twitter. They'll always find him. It's like you have to like put an asterisk or something in the name so they can find it because they always have something positive, negative. It's always they're in there.
And I'm not saying he couldn't like help some team, you know.
No, yeah, he I feel like the best role I really think that he would thrive in. He's better probably than most, like not most point guards, but I feel like he's a little underappreciated at times. But I really feel like long term, like in his career, he could really thrive in that 6th man. He did really well when he came back from injury and Rubio was still with the team.
Yeah.
It worked. I would like to see him in that 6th man a little bit more, but obviously that's not going to be the case because, NBA politics of, you want to start, you're making 30 million. They're not going to bench him in this situation. I'm just meaning like down 4 or 5 years down the line. I think that's where he will really thrive.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, I know this is a bad example, but I always go back to the Russell Westbrook thing. I mean, he's coming off the bench and he's pretty much thriving. And look at like Lou Williams, 6th man of the year multiple times, and Jamal Crawford and all them, like, just guys like that later in their careers.
You should have to put away your pride at some point and kind of do what's best for the team, I guess.
Exactly. So we'll see what happens, Suns fans. Like I mentioned, teams might get squirrely and panic at the end of the, close to the trade deadline. I'm sure we could even see some activity the week of the trade deadline. Sometimes teams want to get it over with like right away. So it's going to be interesting. And again, I wish I had more insight and opinion on it, but due to the contracts, I'm just like, and the Suns' current situation right now, I'm like, dude, I don't even know. But in theory, like if this was NBA 2K, I'd probably welcome it. I'd probably welcome a D'Angelo.
Yeah,
Russell.
You just have to think of team dynamics and everything. Exactly. But 2K for sure, like he would be awesome to pair with Booker in that sense.
Exactly, because we'd have another scorer, a little bit of playmaker. I don't want to use the word borderline all-star, but he has been an all-star in his career.
He has moments where he will put up like 25, 30. He's obviously clutch. We all know that.
Yeah.
He has his moments. It's just like those moments where he's bad. He's really bad.
Right. I think that's it, man. Anything else you want to talk about? Did you see any good questions from the chat? Like there was some.
I don't ever see actually the chat, I guess.
Oh, I didn't know that. I'm sorry.
No, it was like that the last time. I didn't know. I see like the stuff that pops up on the screen, but I didn't know.
I was kind of glancing at it, but I didn't really see like a really solid question. But do you got any questions for me? Any final thoughts? Anything you want to plug? I mean, we can pretty much freestyle at this point, man.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't have too much. I want to see the Suns succeed because I'd rather see the Suns succeed over, Golden State,
Right.
uh, Dallas, I guess, like those teams. Like it's fun to see. I'd rather see the Suns succeed, but I guess like if I had to choose, I've been kind of enjoying the Suns free fall a little bit, just because that means the Wolves can maybe jump ahead of them. If I ever to put my interest first, I'd rather have the Wolves jump the Suns. But if I had to choose, like in the Western Conference, I do hope the Suns do well, and then it's a different team that falls back, and not necessarily the Suns.
There's a few games still being played right now, so I don't know if the standings are necessarily updated.
Utah's playing. I have money on Jordan Clarkson right now.
I didn't know you were a betting man like that. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a betting man.
I guess the Suns, or I guess Utah already. Yeah, Utah won, and I lost my bet, so it's okay.
Well, the reason I bring it up is because even though the games are still being played, I don't think one loss is really going to affect the standings too much. But the Phoenix Suns dropped from 7 to 10. They've lost. They're 2-8 in their last 10 games. They're 21-23. Your Wolves are 21-22. But like we referenced earlier, man, I mean, let's use the Sacramento Kings for example. They're 22-18. I mean,
which is fun to see, but it's also kind of weird,
right? Like if let's say the King, I hate to pick on the Kings because I'm actually rooting for them. If they drop and the Suns get a few victories consistently, they could go up the standings.
Yeah, because I mean, you do have to watch out. I mean, obviously Damian Lillard, who's been in and out of the lineup,
can't sleep on Portland.
Playing well. It's like that 11-12 should not be taken lightly.
Believe it or not, I was on a Warriors podcast. I know I'm crazy. I was on a Warriors podcast, and when I was talking to them about that, I was like, if you would have told me that OKC has how many wins do they have now? 20 wins in January of 2023, I would have called you nuts. Same thing with like the Pacers. They're playing pretty good this year. I just referenced Sacramento. They got 22 wins. I actually kind of hope they make the playoffs because I really like their team and the whole light the beam and everything. So
yeah, it'd be nice to see that.
Yeah. So I don't know. Those are just my final thoughts. And once again, you guys, please check out my guest, Timberwolves Talk. Let's Talk Wolves on Twitter. The website's linked down below. So if you want to plug anything, man, go for it now, and we'll close this out.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk mnsports.com. That's pretty much where I write all my stuff. Let's Talk Twins and Let's Talk Wolves are my two main accounts that I primarily use. I mean, that's all I got for plugging, I guess. I just appreciate you for having me on. Again, our conversation flew by.
It did.
It's always fun. I mean, like I said, I love talking NBA.
Well, you're welcome back on anytime, man. I know that we both got our own lives and we're both busy and everything, but anytime I need you, man, I might reach out to you because it's always better to have some guests so I can actually take a breath, take a sip of my beer, you know what I mean? Relax for a little bit.
Yeah.
And Suns fans, I was a little bit content dry. You guys kind of know that. I was kind of uploading not super consistently up until the point of last night. Please go check out my video from last night. Talk about the Suns ownership situation, a little bit of other Suns news. Appreciate everybody that tuned in tonight. Appreciate you guys being here. Thank you for listening to my rants. And once again, you guys, all the links are down below in the description. Follow my guest, Timberwolves Talk. Check me out on TikTok and Instagram and Twitter and all that. You guys are amazing. And we'll see you guys next time. I might go live. What's our next game against the Nets or something like that? I feel like I should probably go live for that game because the Nets, prior to the KD injury, were on a roll. And then probably on MLK Day against the Grizzlies. So love you guys. Stay safe out there. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.